Let's have a look at some of the more obscure things that are on my shelf. Hello everyone, welcome back to A Fictional Escapist. My name is Kris, and today's video is all about 8 series that I have on my shelves that I hear no one talk about. Before we jump into the video, make sure you are checking that description box down below for links to my Discord and other social media, should you want to come along for the ride. Now, I do have 8 series that I never hear talked about. I don't know whether that's because they are no longer popular. I don't know whether that's because these authors aren't very nice people and someone needs to tell me in the comments down below if that is the case, or if just they have been underappreciated over the years. I have 8 of these, and these are series that I legitimately do want to read, and I just haven't got around to yet. So I'm going to jump into them. I know very little about any of these. I'm going to show you the books that I currently have in the series. They may actually have more books in the series than I own, but these are the ones that I do have. And what we'll do is I'll just read the blurb off the back of the first book of each of these series. I need your help to let me know if you have read any of these and if they're good, and I should really be putting them on my radar instead of putting them in a box to travel to Perth where I won't see them for the next, say, 6 to 10 months, because we don't know when we're moving depending on builders. Alright, let's jump into it. The first author I want to talk about, I actually have read the first book of one of these series. I've got 2 from the same author in this box, and there's a little bit of a story behind why I have so many of his books, and that would be Ian Irvine. The first series I want to talk about is called A View from the Mirror, and it starts with A Shadow on the Glass. This is a book that I did read and I really did enjoy it. It follows up with The Tower on the Rift as book 2. Book 3, Dark is the Moon. And then book 4, I believe this is just a quartet, is The Way Between the Worlds. Beautiful covers. Now, I own so many Ian Irvine books because when Rachel and I first got together, she lived in this 1-bedroom shoebox of an apartment, and it basically just had one long room that had a door for a bedroom, for a master bedroom. And the first time that I went over to her house, I noticed that she had a lot of the series that I had wanted to read, but never had the money to sort of get the full series. Things like Wheel of Time and Robin Hobb were on her shelf, and the one series that we both owned was A View from the Mirror, and she also owned a few other of Ian Irvine's books. This is an author that I have seen cropping up a little bit over on Bookstagram as sort of an author that no one really knows about, but the books are starting to surface, and I would really like to give this series another go. I cannot tell you what it's about. I read this when I was in high school, so I'm going to read the blurb of the first book, A Shadow on the Glass. It says, "Once there were 3 worlds, each with their own people. Then, fleeing out of the void on the edge of extinction, came the Charon, and the balance changed forever. Karan, a sensitive with a troubled past, is forced to steal an ancient relic in payment for a debt. But she is not told that the relic is the Mirror of Ashan, a twisted, deceitful thing that remembers everything it has seen. Lion, meanwhile, a brilliant chronicler, good wording, is expelled from his college for uncovering a perilous mystery. Thrown together by fate, Karan and Lion are hunted across a world at war, for the mirror contains a secret of incredible power." So this looks like it is an epic fantasy. An epic/classic fantasy. So that is one of the series that I own by Ian Irvine. The other series that I own by Ian Irvine is, it's another quartet, and they are tomes. These are on par with Brandon Sanderson level of big. And this is The Well of Echoes. The volume 1 is Geomancer. That's got a long blurb. I don't think I'm going to read the whole thing of that. Volume 2 is Terak. Volume 3 is Screwtator. Screwtator? That's what I'm going with. Sorry, Ian Irvine. I don't know if Ian Irvine is still alive. And the 4th is Chimeria. These books are friggin' huge. Oh, the font's pretty big. Oh, you know what? When I look at page count, they look huge, but they're not that big. Let's have a look. This last one is about 800 pages, but the font's fairly big, so maybe you could get through this fairly quickly. I'm unsure. If anyone's read this series, let me know. I'm genuinely curious. Let's have a read of the back of Geomancer. 200 years after the forbidding was broken, Cynthia is locked in a war with the Lyrinx, intelligent winged predators who will do anything to gain their own world. Despite the development of battle clankers and the mastery of the crystals that power them, humanity is losing. The enemy is destroying their modes of power one by one. Tyan, a lonely crystal worker in a clanker manufactory, is experimenting with an entirely new kind of crystal when she begins to have extraordinary visions. The crystal has woken her latent talent for geomancy, the most powerful of all the secret arts, and the most perilous. Geomancy is likely to kill her before she masters it. It is a talent that allies and enemies alike are desperate to control. Falsely accused of sabotage by her rival Irisis, Tyan flees for her life. She is also hunted by the Lyrinx, Rill, who plans to use her in his dreadful flesh-forming experiments. That doesn't sound great for Tyan. Only geomancy can save her. Struggling to control her talent, Tyan follows her visions all the way to the Thrax, greatest peak on all three worlds, where a nightmare awaits her. That actually sounds really cool. Maybe I should read these. Moving on from Ian Irvine, we have a couple of Aussie authors that I've picked up, and I've heard really good things about this first one. And I'm talking about Trinity by Fiona McIntosh. Now, you may have heard Fiona McIntosh's name. She is a multifaceted author. I believe she also writes historical fiction and romance, but she also writes fantasy, and there's quite a few series out there. So, the Trinity starts with betrayal, follows on with revenge, and then destiny. So I have been told really good things about the Trinity series by Fiona McIntosh, and there's another series of hers that I've also heard may be up my alley, but I've just never gotten around to reading it, and I've had them on my shelves since I was a teenager. Like, I've had them forever. Let's have a look at Betrayal Book 1. Deep in the folklore of Talinor lies a dark legend of betrayal and destruction. It is the story of a powerful sentient called Orlak, who almost destroyed the entire land. Even now, many centuries later, any sentient who is discovered is subjected to the barbaric practice of bridling and branding. But in a village far from the royal city, a young scribe, Torkin Gint, blazes with untold power and healing abilities which go undetected. Tor agrees to be apprenticed to the royal psychic Merkhund, with that decision, Tor takes the first steps toward his destiny. Armed with only his wits and a pouch of mysterious stones given to him by his parents, Tor must trust in the Falcon Clute and enlists the mysterious Dream Speaker to guide him on a journey that will test his courage and his heart. It does sound good. I should read this. Let me know if you've read it. The next is also a series by an Aussie author. I have read one series by her and really enjoyed it. That was the Troy Game by Sara Douglas, and I've also started another series by her and it did not work for me at all. So I also have the Crucible series by Sara Douglas. This one starts with the Nameless Day, continues on with the Wounded Hawk, and finishes up with the Crippled Angel. That is a cool concluding name for a trilogy. I know very little about the Crucible series. I was obsessed with the Crucible, the play, when I was in primary school. I want to say grade 7. We read that, and it was an auto buy on the name alone. I've got no idea what this is about, and I haven't read it. I've been reluctant to go back to this series because of how much the other Sara Douglas series I picked up didn't work for me, but I kept this one on my shelves just in case I wanted to go back. So, the Nameless Day says, 1348, and the Black Pestilence decimates Europe. Corpses pile high in the streets. Crops rot in the fields. Infants are left to suckle at the decomposing breasts of their dead mothers. But this creeping death is only a harbinger of the horror to come, as the church is torn asunder demons escape from hell to scurry across the face of the earth. This sounds dark. 1377, and the Archangel Michael sends Brother Thomas Neville on a mission across Europe to find the means to thrust the demons back beyond the doorway of hell. But it has been 30 years, and the minions of Satan have had more than enough time to prepare. As Thomas Neville encounters angels and demons, saints and witches, he comes to realize that the armies of God and Satan are arraying themselves for the final battle, and that his soul is to be the battleground. We now live in the aftermath of that battle, but are we sure who won? I mean, it sounds excellent, right? The next one we have is by an author with the coolest name in existence, and this is the Pearl Saga by Eric Van Lustbader. I have been told to read this series listening to the instrumental version of a Nightwish album, because that is the vibe that we are going with. We're going with gothic metal, gothic orchestral metal vibes. So, I have 3 books in this series. I do not know if that is all the books in this series. This one starts with the Ring of 5 Dragons, which is much smaller than the next 2 I own. Book 2 is the Veil of 1,000 Tears. And book 3, the Cage of 9 Banestones. Again, gorgeous covers that we have on, particularly those last 2 there. I know absolutely nothing about this. I was gifted these by my best friend, who had a whole bunch of physical fantasy books he was getting rid of, and he wanted to basically change his library to be purely digital in terms of space, so he gave these to me and I haven't read them since. The Ring of 5 Dragons says, for 101 years the Vaughn have ruled over the planet Kundala, and for 101 years the legendary all-powerful Pearl has been lost. Ever since the Vaughn invasion, the oppressed Kundalan have been dwindling in strength. Their religion is dying, their magic fading, and their goddess all but forgotten. Only the fabled and long-awaiting Darsala can rediscover the Pearl and save Kundalan and Vaughn alike from extinction. But the newly encased hero of ancient prophecy must fight inner turmoil as well, as battling the mysterious and dangerous rulers of the Vaughn and technologically advanced Gurgan. So this almost sounds sci-fi as well. Is it a fantasy sci-fi? If someone has read this, let me know. This font is so small. In the bigger ones, it's bigger. All of these so far have sounded pretty cool. I don't know when I'm going to get to them, but I own them. The next one I have looks very sci-fi-y. We've got a spaceship of sorts on the front one, so I'm guessing this is a sci-fi series. And this is The Ancient Future by Traci Harding. I've got Book 1, Masters of Reality, The Gathering. Book 2, An Echo of Time, Atlantis. I did say Atlantis. And then Book 3, Book 3, The Ancient Future, The Dark Age. I picked these up at a Lifeline Book Fest. So here in Australia, most states will get a Lifeline Book Fest per year, sometimes twice a year, and this is where Lifeline, who does the suicide hotlines here, they have a whole bunch of second-hand shops, and they go around and they take all the books and they put on a huge book fest just to try and clear out some of that stock. So I picked up these at one of those book fests. I thought it looked pretty cool. I'd wanted to get a little bit more into sci-fi, but I've not picked it up since. This one says, an enormous vortex spiraled above the Earth out beyond the orbit of the Moon. Its center was expanding to form a huge glowing corridor through the fabric of space. This brilliant mass shot forth thousands of glowing balls of light that proceeded to descend toward our planet. As Tori awaits Melgwyn's return, she endeavours to find out the truth behind her ancestry, and is shocked to discover that her clan is not the only tribe of immortals the gods have nurtured. One by one, allies from Tori's past re-emerge to help her through a time of tribulation when her clan is made outcast from mainstream society. An old enemy incarnate is seeking revenge on the dragon's kin. And now, aside by divine power, an interstellar army is set to destroy the Chosen at the foretold Gathering of Kings. Again, it sounds dope. Second to last, and I believe this is also an Australian author, is The Tide Lords by Jennifer Fallon. This one starts with the Immortal Prince, followed on by the Gods of Amrantha. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly. Don't hold it against me. Book 3 is The Palace of Impossible Dreams. And then Book 4 to the quartet, The Chaos Crystal. I think these are another one that I picked up at one of those Lifeline Book Fests, or I had Book 1 and I just finished off the series, or the friend I mentioned before gave it to me. Again, we've got some beautiful, beautiful covers here. This one feels very fantasy, like, oh, there's a six-pack on the front. Sir, put a shirt on. The back of this one, so this is The Immortal Prince, which is Book 1. Nailed it. Says, he's insisting he's a Tide Lord, and he's begging us to try again. To kill him, that is. When a routine hanging goes wrong, the survivor announces he is Kael, the Immortal Prince, a Tide Lord. However, the only known record of the immortal beings of Amaranthia is the Tide Lord Tarot, and everyone knows it's just a parlor game, an amusement. Arcady Desian, an expert on the legends of Traci, a part animal, part human race, is sent to interrogate Kael, but in exposing this would-be immortal, Arcady's own web of deceit threatens to unravel. Nothing is really as it seems around the immortal prince. The lies seem plausible, his stories improbable, and the truth is more than any of them bargained for. I've got to say, fantasy authors really know how to write a blurb that just goes, ooh, yes, I want to be reading that. The last one I have for you here today is one that I believe is actually Rachel's and I've stolen as my own. I'm not completely sure. Is The Trial of Blood and Steel. This is by Joel Shepherd. This starts with Sasha, follows on with Petrodor, Book 3, Tricato, I don't know how to pronounce that, and Book 4, Haven. These all have covers that I really enjoy. They all have different colours, they're on a white background. That just screams, yes, read me. But let's have a look at the blurb of Sasha and see what we think. Sasha is a fighter, the like of which the country of Linnaean has never seen. Spurning her royal heritage to be raised by the great warrior Kesley, Sasha's exquisite swordplay astonishes all who witness it, but she is young, untested in battle, and often led by her rash temper. I like Sasha already. In the complex world of Linnaean loyalties, her willfulness is attracting the wrong kind of attention. Sorry about the truck. Linnaean is a land divided by its beliefs. The Varanthane of the ruling classes and the pagan Goronyai, amongst whom Sasha now lives. The Goronyai value swordplay and honour, and have come to see Sasha as a great spirit who will unite them. But Sasha is still searching for what she believes, and must choose her side carefully. Soon she will face her moment of testing. Is she ready to lead? Can she be the saviour the Goronyai want her to be? What I say about fantasy authors writing cool blurbs. Those are the 8 series that I have here that no one talks about, that I own and I wish to get to at some point in my lifetime. Have you read any of these? If you have, please let me know down below if I should be prioritizing any of them. What do you think? What are you interested in? What blurb caught your attention? Let me know in the comments down below. If you like this content, give it one of those. If you want to see more of it, click subscribe at your will. I'll catch you in the next video. Ciao.